mutual recognition of those standards and being able to be flexible enough to accommodate those of a high standard.
OK, merci. Et si advenant qu'on ne réussissait pas à avoir une entente avec les trois pays, le Mexique, les États-Unis et le Canada, est-ce que vous voyez d'un bon œil qu'on ait une entente avec juste les États-Unis bilatérale et juste le Mexique?
No, we're not advocating for separate bilaterals. We think we should maintain the trilateral nature of the NAFTA, including on regulatory standards.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Madam LaPointe. And we're going to move over to the NDP now, and I'm glad to see Mr. Duval here from Hamilton Mountain. Welcome again.
Thank you.
And the NDP's got the floor now for 5 minutes, so go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Thank you for your presentation today. And I'd like to pick up where Madame Lapointe left off. And if you could dig a little further and elaborate on some of the advantages and disadvantages of the trilateral trade, because ultimately, the U.S. may indicate to us that they want to convert NAFTA, from its single trilateral into bilaterals. So can you speak more specifically about advantages and disadvantages of the trilateral agreement that exists?
Could I start on that and just sort of a general plane and just say this. From a manufacturing standpoint, I think every vehicle manufacturer would say the same thing to you. We are not hung up about where you set the bar on standards, but what we do want to have is as large a consumer marketplace as we possibly can, because of the incredible expense in developing new technologies for powertrain, for connectivity, for safety. The best result for the consumer is for us to manufacture in volume for the largest possible consumer marketplace. It amortizes the cost of development of those technologies across that broader consumer market. And so high standards shared amongst three countries will be a much better outcome from a manufacturing efficiency standpoint, from a public safety standpoint, than a welter of bilateral arrangements. So, and I will say that one of our conversations in terms of where we go with this is ultimately we'd like to see common regulatory standards between the United States and Europe, because it doesn't make sense for us to make small changes in vehicles based on testing standards where the actual outcome of performance of the vehicle is very close. But that's where it comes down today, is that a lot of it comes down to technical detail of the standard, not in terms of the real performance of the vehicle. So when we talk about mutual recognition, it's about speeding the flow of those technologies to the consumer marketplace.
Okay, my question is to now Honda and Toyota specifically. I'm just wondering, in your plans, where you go forward from here. Obviously, you're expanding, you're growing your North American platform. If you can speak individually from your company's perspective as to, where those plans are developing next. Will there be investment in Canada? Are you looking at investment in the U.S. or investment in Mexico kind of as your next step? Just out of curiosity as to where you see your potential market growth.
In terms of market growth, so this is Scott McKenzie from Toyota. Market growth for us would probably be another market, whether it be Europe or elsewhere. In terms of investments, we are planning on investing in Canada at our manufacturing facilities in Cambridge and Woodstock. We have plans in place to reinvest and continue to manufacture high-quality vehicles in Canada for the Canadian market and the U.S. market, but it is important to recognize that at least in our operations, 80% of our vehicles are going to the U.S. market.
And if I can add, this is Anik Nouri at Honda. Scott's obviously more of an expert on this than I am, but the North American market right now is generally moving towards compact SUVs. At least we found that our product in the U.S. especially, that's where it's growing, and we build that the CR-V in Alliston, and like Toyota, the majority of our product is exported to the U.S. About 75% of it. So as you can see, the investment opportunity here is dependent on us being able to build product that can be exported to other jurisdictions. Obviously, we can't absorb all of it. And so when it comes to making those investment decisions, which are made in large part in consultation with, if not by our head offices overseas, they sort of look at where the market is, where it's going, and I think the tripartite agreement and the way the structure is in North America right now lends itself to favorable decisions being made in terms of investments in Canada.
So my next question is really about that, highly integrated supply chain that exists. We certainly heard that from other automotive manufacturers when they've been before the committee, and I think we understand that well. So I wonder if you can speak to us about what a disruption to that chain would look like for you, and how you would address that type of disruption.
It'll have to be a short answer, please.
It'd be almost impossible to address quickly. A lot of our sourcing decisions are made several years out. Right now, more than 50% of our content and our vehicles made in Cambridge and Woodstock is coming from the United States. Any trade-related impact to that is going to affect our profitability and also our ability to produce not a low-cost car, but an optimally priced car for our customers.
Well, thank you, sir. And we're going to move over to the Liberals now. And Madam Ludwig, you got 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to continue on with Ms. Ramsey's question on the disruption and the potential that might have. And I'm wondering if you could speak specifically to if there was a disruption in trade between, in this case, Canada, the U.S., and Mexico, what that might mean to jobs on the Canadian side as well as on the American side.
In simple terms, Toyota manufactured 600,000 vehicles in Canada last year, and we sold about 215,000 around there. If we don't have access to the United States market, we would have to find another market in order to sell our vehicles. And I don't know if there's a lot of markets available right now that we could export to that would make up anywhere close to the market that the U.S. provides to us.
Then if I may add further on my question, next week as a trade committee, we're actually heading out to Detroit. And I'm just wondering if you could, if 50% of your content is imported from the United States, and if there was a disruption in trade with the U.S., maybe it's a border tax, maybe it's other issues, maybe it's additional duties, what that might mean on the American side for jobs in terms of the supply of content. If we're purchasing that volume from the United States.
In the short term, not much, because again, those sourcing decisions are made several years out, and we wouldn't be able to make decisions quick enough to affect that. In the long term, sourcing decisions and also vehicle allocation decisions would gradually move the manufacturing and final assembly closer to the market that they're sold in. So there would be a natural inclination to, build where you sell even more currently, and natural forces would force that towards the United States.
Or if the costs of compliance in a revised NAFTA become too high, it's important to remember that the external duty rate that the U.S. applies to cars is 2.5%. So a cost increase beyond 2.5% might very well lead some manufacturers to decide to relocate manufacturing out of the region.
Okay.
So I think there's a real downside to disrupting those supply chains.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for that. I'm wondering about R&D, so research and development. Where does that largely take place? Is that in Canada? Is it in the United States? Is it completely outside of North America?
It's generally done in the United States. Some of it in Japan, but the majority is in the United States right now. We do some of it in here, but a lot of it is related to cold weather testing and testing whether our vehicles can match up to the Canadian winters, especially when it comes to when it comes to electric vehicles, hydrogen vehicles, and things like that.
So, but the testing is actually done in the U.S. in terms of a cold climate, like for Canada?
that part of it is done in Canada.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm wondering if you could just explain to us the share of the operations in terms of your industries between Canada, the United States, and Mexico in terms of plant operations. What percentage is in each country?
Well, we're producing about a million vehicles a year currently in Canada. It's probably close to 3.5 million